Thanks for joining us here on the Be Progressive Show. My name is Brandon Neal. Today we're going to be talking about COVID-19, the vaccine, why Congress got it before anybody else, and we're also going to be talking about the continued Trump coup effort that is apparently roaring on, even though we thought it was done. And we're going to look at some Republican tweets and craziness, all here on the Be Progressive Show, so stay tuned. To no one's surprise, it appears that Congress has received the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines, and I think most of all of them have probably taken it by now. Several of them have taken it live on air. It is amazing to me that healthcare workers, doctors, and nurses, and they didn't get it first. Nope, we got to make sure that Congress gets it first. And what really pisses me off is that I don't care as much about the Democratic Congress people getting it, but the Republican Congress people should be at the absolute ass end of the vaccine line, because they've done nothing but make this worse by being Trump sycophants and pushing all this COVID-19 nonsense. So the Republicans in Congress should have been the absolute last people to receive this, but of course, they get it first. No big deal, right? Yep. So Trump and his, crazy right-wing base and most of the right-wing politicians have pushed this, narrative. It's been pushed on Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and all other right-wing outlets that the COVID-19 virus is not that dangerous. It's not, it's no more dangerous than the flu, right? That's what they all say. Oh, super low death rate, blah, blah, blah. Well, you keep pushing this nonsense and you get people like this. We got to hear this, because this is incredible. Incredible stupid here.
Here? You're not going to get it? Yeah.
We don't have the vibrational frequency to get COVID?
Correct. Do you know that everything in this universe vibrates and is alive? There is life with that. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't put life into COVID. I'm not going to wear a mask.
I'm not going to wear a mask either.
I never wear a mask.
We're not going to wear them.
Ever.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with here, folks. Absolute morons. Just bottom of the barrel morons. That's what we have to deal with. So even now that we have a vaccine that is out and more than one company has made the vaccine and it's starting to now be distributed, it's really not going to do a lot of good right away because of people like those two ignorant asses. They're not going to take the vaccine. They don't think it's real. There's a lot of people out there who think the vaccine was rushed. It's not. My wife is a physician. She follows this very, very closely. This was not rushed in terms of all of the safety checks and testing that needed to be done when it came to both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. So, the chances of having a corona vaccine that actually does something that's more impactful to your health in a negative way than the virus itself is very, very low. Very, very low. So, we're going to keep dealing with misinformation twats that push this, and we got to do the best we can. I don't know what else to, we can't make people do it, so that's how it's going to be, I guess. But anyway, moving on away from COVID. I did want to touch, I am from Indianapolis, Indiana, and we are currently sitting at 461,000 cases with almost 7,400 deaths. And our state is one of the one of the worst, really. And the area in which I live, that doesn't surprise me at all, because you would think everything was completely back to normal where I live. There's no masking, very little. It's actually, my wife and I talk about how it's actually impressive when we pull up to a drive-through, like a fast food place, or if we go to a restaurant to get takeout, that all of the people that work there actually have their masks and have them on properly, and not what we call dick noses when they're hanging down here, or chin diapers when they're hanging down here. So, people around here don't care, and you can tell, and you can just look at our numbers and see, and that's what's going to happen. So anyway, I want to move on away from this because it just makes me mad. Something else that this actually, it doesn't really make me mad. This story doesn't make me mad. It just makes me laugh because I know what's eventually going to happen here. But it looks like that people are starting to get a little bit alarmed with Trump's coup. And there was this Axios article here kind of breaks it down. It says, these officials tell me that Trump is spending too much time with people that they consider crackpots or conspiracy theorists and flirting with blatant abuses of power. There are 32 days left until President-elect Biden's inauguration. And they say the big picture here is that their fears include Trump's interest in former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's wild talk of martial law, an idea floated of an executive order to commandeer voting machines, and the specter of Sidney Powell and the conspiracy-spewing election lawyer obtaining governmental power and top-level security clearance. A senior administration had said that when the Trump is retweeting threats of putting politicians in jail and spends his time talking to conspiracy nuts who openly say declaring martial law is no big deal, it is impossible not to start getting anxious about how this all ends. And I totally agree. People who are concerned and nervous aren't the weak-kneed bureaucrats that we loathe, the official added. These are people who have endured arguably more insanity and mayhem than any other administration officials in history. At Friday's meeting, New York Times, Trump discussed making Powell a special counsel for election fraud. The idea included commandeering voting machines, with Powell as a special counsel to inspect the machines, according to the source familiar with the meeting. White House counsel Pat Cipollone, I cannot pronounce this guy's name, and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows pushed back strenuously and repeated against the idea put forth by Sidney Powell. The meeting included Flynn, who was pardoned by Trump in November and is a celebrity within the election-denying community of Trumpers. So, it goes back and forth day to day. If just a day or so goes by and I think, well, finally the, bullshit's going to slow down and we're going to just move on. And then we ramp the bullshit right back up. And so now that we've been talking about a military coup, basically, that's what it is that he's discussing, and martial law, and the fact that any of these ideas were even thought, let alone spoken, let alone put out into the public, is scary. And Trump is a dum-dum and not smart enough to be an good, evil, fascist dictator, but his behavior is starting to really raise the eyebrows of people who I don't think until now have really even considered that he might actually try and stay in power. It's always just been hyperbole, and it's always just been, something that, oh, Trump's Hitler, he's a Nazi, he's not Hitler, and he's not a Nazi completely. But I don't put it past him trying to stay in. He'll do anything. Because he knows as soon as he's out, it's prosecution time. And his ass is going to be in a courtroom more than he is going to be at his home. So, anyway, our good old pillow guy on Twitter, Mike Lindell, calls for martial law to be declared in Minnesota. So he tweeted to President Trump Saturday night calling for martial law to be declared in Minnesota so Trump can obtain the state ballots and evidently overturn the results of the election. Lindell's tweet came in the form of a retweet of Attorney Lin Wood, who called for martial law to be declared in Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, all the states that Trump lost. All of the states where President-elect Biden won, pushing him well beyond the 270 electoral votes needed for a win. Lindell has long been a vocal Trump supporter, frequently appearing at the speaking at the rallies, and he's always been a Trump sycophant. He's been right there by his side, and now basically publicly declaring that he thinks that we should have martial law and that we just basically steal an election. So I'm not real sure why the FBI or CIA hasn't arrested this guy and charged him with sedition, but I don't know. That's why a lot of these people haven't been arrested yet that I'm kind of curious about. I guess we'll just let anything go in this country and do whatever, and no laws will ever be enforced unless they're enforced on the poor people. That's about it. So these people are clowns. They're just clowns. That's all there is to it. Just clowns. And we've still been discussing a little bit of this Medicare for All Jimmy Dore thing, and man, it has fractured the left right down the center. And people who I thought were on the same side aren't, and people who are on my side are just as surprising to me as others, and it's amazing, really, what's going on, and I don't know who's right or wrong. Really, it's so tough for me. I'm really on Jimmy Dore's side. Really, I mean, I think that it's good to push for the vote. There's no better time to do it, you know. And we, of course, I mean, we're not stupid. We know that this vote's not going to pass, you know, or go anywhere. But there are times that we have to take advantage of what's going on politically, socially, and politically in the political environment, as far as like now Biden's coming in and Trump is leaving, and we've got right in the middle of a pandemic where there's, you know, hundreds of millions of people without health care or proper good health care. And this right now is the time really to get people on the record and make them say no, that you don't support it in the middle of a pandemic. And I'm sorry, I really mulled this over because I'm sometimes kind of reactionary when it comes to those certain things. And I really at first thought, you know, Jimmy's he's wrong here, and maybe not. Maybe we need to be more strategic. But really, the more I've thought about it and mulled it over, and the more that I've read, I'm actually on his side. And I'm glad to see that others are. Kyle Kalinske, I saw, is on his side. And, you know, it looks like the majority report, as usual, is always not on his side because they tend to be kind of anti-Dore regardless of what he does or says. Emma Vigeland is big on Twitter now, running her mouth about Dore and stuff, and I like Emma, and that's the problem, is I like all of these people. Most of all of these people I like on the left. And the thing is, almost all of these people that we're discussing that are at each other's throats right now on Twitter all really truly policy-wise agree with probably 90+% of what everybody else believes. But we fracture ourselves like this and just, I mean, we're going at it. Like Ben Dixon's in it, and he's, you know, going at Jimmy, and Jimmy's followers are going at him, you know, and it's just like, and finally, I'm so glad Kyle's like on Jimmy's side on this, because he says it's not somehow edgy or savvy or strategic to not vote on one of our core issues and not explain when we will, you know. So like, and like I said, it's pretty interesting that the same progressives who state that we shouldn't push for a floor vote for Medicare for all because of a supported lack of votes had no issue pushing for the impeachment a year ago, and they had absolutely no votes for removal on Donald Trump, and these are the same people. It's not really about that. It's about getting it in the spotlight. It's about getting it in the public and getting these Democratic so-called progressives that are in the progressive caucus, because a lot of those people in the progressive caucus are not progressive, but we're going to get them on the record, and we're going to say this is you know, a vote up or down. What are you doing? And it's the middle of a pandemic, and a lot of people, millions of people, don't have health care. So what do you want to do? I agree. I'm with Jimmy Dore on this one, but it has split the left. There's been some pretty nasty infighting. So we'll see what happens. I don't really expect the vote to I don't expect it to happen. I know that Jimmy will fight and everybody else will fight for it, but when it comes right down to it, we won't. Pelosi will put an end to that. So anyway, I think we'll wrap it up for today, but we'll be back Monday, and Monday evening we'll be doing a live show, and we will see you all then.